Recently, MKBHD did a video on the new Mercedes EQS, and it just got me thinking about the similarities yet the complete differences between Mercedes' approach to EVs and Tesla's approach to EVs. So I want to take a look at MKBHD's top 5 features of this new Mercedes, the 2022 EQS, and kind of reflect on those features as they relate to Tesla and where they're at now with their own innovation. One really big thing I took out of this video is that this Mercedes is on a completely different planet than Tesla. And it's not a bad thing or a good thing, it's just they're coming from completely different angles. The Mercedes is coming from an angle of luxury, less about a clean look, a simplistic interface, a high-functioning piece of software that's driving everything, literally and figuratively. But again, more about adding in the bells and whistles that might convert their existing base of Mercedes owners to this EV. And that's probably the biggest item of importance for Mercedes in this case. Let's talk about RGB lighting, or just lighting in general in these cars. In the video you saw from MKBHD, there's a lot of RGB light strips being used throughout the car. A ridiculous amount of lighting. The way they implemented it is really interesting. They made it actually reflect what's happening in the car while you're driving or while you're not driving. So you put the brakes on, maybe it turns red. You accelerate beyond efficiency point, and maybe it turns red, and maybe you decelerate and it goes green when you're regenning. That type of thing. So it's actually giving usable feedback to the driver and to the passengers on what's happening in the car. This could be done for climate control, maybe music levels, all those types of things. So for Tesla, there's not a lot of visual representation included, except for the center console that we have, right? From a lighting perspective, we really only have a few things. So we have the footwell lighting and the standard door lighting. There's not much else that you can see in the vehicle that would visually stimulate you to understand that something has changed or something will change in the car while you're driving again or not driving. It's all in that center console. And this was on purpose, obviously, but I think that Tesla could learn something in this case of being able to actually integrate visual representation of the status of the car while you're driving as a color, as a status of some sort that would light up in a way that wouldn't be too distracting. There's areas, of course, in the center console where you can put it around the front of the vehicle. There's lots of places, but what purpose does it really serve is the question. A little bit of lighting just for the hell of it? Sure, awesome. Just for the sake of having lighting sounds great to me. But taking that extra step to integrate it with some of the user experience while you're driving is pretty awesome. And that's what Mercedes has done here. So let's look at some of the tech in comparison, because that's obviously a big focus. This is number 4. He counted 8 USB-C ports. That's a lot of ports. In my Model Y, which is the 2021 version with the older center console, so I count 4 USB ports. USB-C and A ports. If you add in a hub, then you get more, obviously, but standard, I count 4. If you look at the newer Model Ys and Model 3s, they have another port in the glove box, but still they can't compete from a port perspective with the Mercedes in this case. But to make it even more excessive, Mercedes seems to have included 2 HDMI ports in the rear. I'm trying to think of why that would be used. Do you have any thoughts on why that would be used? Maybe if you have a laptop and you want to plug it in, but you can't share your screen or anything, what is the point of that? The Mercedes also has NFC pairing, which makes it so you just tap your phone in the center and it syncs your phone up with the car. It also has 2 wireless chargers, one in the back, one in the front. That actually got me thinking that it would be pretty awesome if Tesla did that with 2 in the front is great, one for the driver, one for the passenger, but have one in the back too. You can pull down the middle area of the seat and have a charger right there too. The other thing that I thought the Mercedes nailed pretty well is a fingerprint reader in the center to essentially authenticate you as a driver profile. So if you wanted to switch your profile, or if your passenger wanted to switch to their profile for whatever reason, you just put your finger down onto the biometric authentication and off you go. And another thing I think is worth mentioning is the heads-up display that the Mercedes offers. And in this case, it's a beautiful heads-up display that really displays all of the needed information for the drivers. So the speed limit, current speed, any type of nav arrows that need to come up, and it's got this really handy feature where it shows the direction you need to be turning. As you get closer, the arrows get larger. So really cool stuff there. It's a beautiful implementation of a HUD, and really something that I think we all believe that Tesla could use, because of the fact that we have a center console where we need to turn our eyes to the center console to see anything. And that's not always the best thing. I mean, I've had mine since December 2020. I can tell you there have been many times when I really hoped that I could just keep my eyes forward and not have to turn to the right here to figure out where the hell I'm going. If it's if a situation where I've got the navigation running, sure, audio cues are great, but not having to turn your head, turn your eyes in a situation where maybe you don't want to. So yeah, that's a beautiful implementation. I think it's something that Tesla could take from this and implement in their own vehicles going forward. Let's talk about number 3 on his list, the luxury. This was crazy. Looking at some of the pillows and the headrests, these headrests look very similar to the ones that Mercedes offers, but they have a pillow on them, and also the seats are vented, which is something I am going to start wishing was the case once it starts getting hot here. But the white seats are great because they're not going to hold that much heat anyway. But those who have black seats and you're in a hot climate, you're going to want to have vented seating. I don't care what kind of leather it is, if it's real or fake leather or vinyl or whatever, you're going to want to have some vented seating. So the luxury aspect of the Mercedes really outshines the Tesla. But again, you're paying a price of excess over simplicity. It's whatever style you like. If you are a Mercedes owner, hey, we're used to how Mercedes does the luxury thing, and that's great. But if you're coming from a Tesla or some other vehicle where it's a little bit more subdued, then you may think this is all a little bit too much. Seat-specific commands is number 2 on his list. And this is really interesting because it seems like the Mercedes has mics scattered throughout, and it used positional audio to be able to pick up what part of the car you're speaking from, and thus what part of the car should get the changes that you asked for. So if you say from the back seat, "I'm cold," it will turn up your temperature in your seat for you, not for the front or the rest of the car. So Tesla owners can issue these commands, obviously, and it will change it for the entire vehicle. So if you say "I'm cold," it'll increase the temperature 3 degrees for the whole vehicle. Say "I'm warm," decrease it 3 degrees. Say "open butthole," it opens the charging port. That's new, by the way, right? Yeah. So there you go. That's what you've got for commands in Tesla, and sort of the interface in Tesla is the entire vehicle versus spatially. So Tesla doesn't know where you're speaking from. It just makes the changes overall globally in the car. Number 1 on the list in his video was the Hyperscreen. And I love the concept of a Hyperscreen. What do I mean by Hyperscreen? Well, as it relates to the Mercedes vehicle that we're looking at, this is a 55-inch screen in front of you. Not a full-on 55-inch screen, which he makes really clear, but 3 different screens taking up 55 inches of room from left to right. In my opinion, it doesn't even make use of this screen real estate very well. When you look at each of the 3 pieces of that Hyperscreen, I do wonder what the point of them are. It looks like there's a ton of unused space in the one in the middle. It's very clunky, it's slow. When you're moving the map along, it's like vehicles from 6-7 years ago when you're using the built-in interface. Try to click and drag or push and drag with your finger, and it's slow and yuck. You do that on a Tesla, there may be only 1 screen in the middle. It's not 55 inches of a Hyperscreen, but boy, do they use that real estate really well. Well, thanks again for watching, everybody. I appreciate it, as always. This was a lot of fun to take 2 different vehicles in the EV world and see how they stand up against each other. Not really a comparison, but more of a feature parity type situation. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I appreciate everything, and we'll see you next time.